quick. All right, guys. So our guest tonight is going to be the Degenerate75. He is a high-level DFS player that specializes in PGA DFS as well as NFL and college football. I personally have followed him for quite some time now. If you give this guy a follow, you will see endless testimonials to his teachings. I mean, if he doesn't win, multiple people from his Discord, which is I'm a part of this Discord. It is a legit community. Um, they hit and they win large sums of money as well. I mean, uh, I'm hoping with the edges and tips that he gives us on what makes him successful is that we're able to combine that with our fight knowledge to diversify ourselves and open up a new revenue stream for MMA for us that a lot of people that aren't aware of. I mean, I've been part of the group chat for a while now and I'm pretty much the only person that ever talks about DFS in there. So I knew I had to get the right guy in here to teach us how to do it, and the Degenerate is definitely that guy to teach us. So without further ado, the Degenerate75, everyone.
Hey, what's going on, man? I hope I'm doing this right. Am I on?
You're on there, bud. Why don't you go ahead and kind of run down what you do on DraftKings for us and what your gig is, and then maybe we got some questions for you.
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing DraftKings kind of the highest level for about the past 5 years now. Kind of just stumbled into it, and then I realized that there was in certain sports there's a pretty big edge, especially sports that computers can't project as well. Sports like PGA, probably like MMA. And I just started really focusing on the game theory aspect on it. Had a lot of luck. Then about a year ago, I kind of got bored and I realized that like no one made good content for like really niche sports like PGA Showdown and stuff like that. So I made a YouTube channel, got on there, just tried to like make it more about learning how to do it instead of always giving picks, because that's what everybody in the industry always wants to do is give picks. And I really wanted to be different and really teach people how to think for themselves and build for themselves and to be their own fisherman, so to speak. And it's just kind of grown, and now I've branched out, do a little football now, but I'm still mainly just a golf guy trying to build a positive community, and have fun, and make DFS what it's supposed to be about, having fun and maybe winning a shit ton of money.
Yeah, for those of you that haven't seen the pictures, I mean, he's won 50 grand, 40 grand. He's won thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, the guy's as legit as it comes, and I've personally been using him myself or his Discord, and I've noticed a difference in myself as far as PGA. And I don't have much of a knowledge from PGA. Just going off of what he taught me, or he's taught the group basically, I've been able to turn profits more often than not. I mean, you're not going to win a high percentage, but I'm winning a lot more than I was before. So, I mean, like I said, I'm firsthand. Like, I'm not bullshitting nobody here.
Anybody that may want to that has a question, just throw your hand up. But Mike, give me just a second. I want to kick it off. So, could you tell me? It was cool for me to hear you say that you don't like to give picks. You want to teach people how to do it. That was actually I smiled when you said that. So my question would be like, short of knowing, like if you were to just log in and say, you know what, I'm going to play MMA today. I don't know MMA. I don't mess with it. I know a couple of the popular guys. I'm a casual to say the best, but I'm going to look at these numbers and I'm going to try to pick a team. Do you use the sites that track how many times somebody is picked? Like I know there's sites for DFS where I can go see how many times someone is being picked for a certain event or how many times they were picked last time by the level of people that competed. Like, do you compute all of that, or do you study the sport and then just kind of watch the picks that people are making?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I can actually answer it firsthand because I don't really know much about MMA. I've always been told by I got a lot of big shark friends in the industry that win a whole lot, and they've told me that MMA is actually one of the most profitable sports. I would bet that I could probably go do the next MMA contest and probably do pretty well at it if I just had some reliable ownership. Like if I know who most people are going to play, simply just by playing contrarian guys, especially guys in MMA where, like a guy who has a puncher's chance, right? He might be a 9-1 dog, but like, that like if he lands that one shot, he can knock him out. And if you can get him at something ridiculous, like 5% ownership or something like that, just strictly playing that ownership leverage game at MMA, would probably be able to make you a profitable player, even if you couldn't name 5 MMA fighters, which is basically about what I am. For me, why I don't do MMA is I do really want to know the game theory aspect, and I want to know all the nuances of the sport. That's why I don't really branch outside of PGA or NFL very much, because I don't know all the nuances of MMA. I don't know who those guys are that could sneaky rack up points, even when they're in bad form or what have you. And if I knew that, and then I could play the ownership game, which is huge in MMA because there's just not as much sharp content out there pushing out ownership and stuff like that. It's a sport you could really have an edge at.
Okay, so Mike, I'm gonna let you hop up there. I just want to say anybody that doesn't know what DFS is, or if you're not sure what it is when we're saying DFS, if you've ever went on DraftKings and you log in and you join a tournament and you make a team for a budget, that's DFS. I'm sure everybody's at least seen it or at least seen commercials for it or heard somebody talk about it. You just may not have heard it called DFS. So I just wanted to clarify that for anybody who might be going, shit, what are they talking about right now? Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Degen, do you build one lineup or do you have like a core of guys and then you build multiple around that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and largely it depends on the week. Like this week at golf, like I'm already doing my research. I'm kind of getting all my picks down. I wait till Wednesday to make all my lineups, but I'm doing my research leading up to that, and I kind of largely let it determine like how many guys within the event that I like kind of determines how many lineups I want to build. So like, let's say I go through and I really only like 6, 7, 8 guys this week. I'm probably just going to consolidate that down into one lineup, go put it in a bunch of higher dollar stuff and play that. If I find myself clicking a whole bunch of guys, say I want to play 20 different guys this week, well, if I'm going to play 20 different guys, I'm going to need multiple combinations of those 20 guys to make sure that I'm getting enough exposure to them. So if they hit, that I can be successful. So I largely let, like how many guys I like that week dictate it. I would love to say what I would do with MMA, but seeing I've never played an MMA slate, I would say that it would be a little insincere. And then I just want to say something not related to this question, but why DFS, daily fantasy sports? You got to remember, a lot of us live in states where you can't legally sports bet. We don't want to deal with shady offshore accounts. And so, DraftKings, FanDuel, daily fantasy sports sites allow us to essentially gamble without it technically being gambling, because in my slapdick state, fantasy sports are legal, but sports betting's not. So this is a way to, still get that sports betting, betting on the sports that you love, which just makes them that much more enjoyable to watch, and you can win some real money. So that's why daily fantasy sports over betting for me.
I got you. I like how you mentioned the strategy of when you have a core of guys and then you'll try to build combinations of them. That's a strategy I use to make parlays for a long time, at least good 6-7 month run there so far. And it floats me through. Like I lost on an underdog last week, just betting money lines, not playing DFS. And I was pissed that I lost on it. My safe bet, quote unquote, safe bet of the week. Um, Fight got canceled and I was pissed. So I just reverted back. I went and took 4 favorites. It wasn't because they were favorites. It was favorites I knew were going to win. Like these guys are going to win. There's just not money in them. And I mixed them up in a parlay and I cashed out ahead for the night and kind of just, I felt vindicated on the night or whatever, pissed at my dog that I thought was going to hit miss. But it was the same strategy. So, like, you can take that same core of guys that, like, you guys might be doing for parlays, how we bet around here normally, and you could find them in the game, find the ones that have the lower value in the game and try to bulk them together. Trace, did you have any specific questions before I take it over? I know you're the guy, you're the one who invited him here, and I have a tendency to overtalk.
Yeah, no, you're good at what you do, bud. I don't know what questions you have wrote up, so I don't really know if my question is going to overlap your question or not. But I mean, I guess we just get it out of the way.
Yeah, I don't care.
So obviously with MMA, Degen, there's no weather edge or nothing like that in this sport, whereas there is in football and golf. So what are the other edges that you use to help you become as successful as you are? Like what are your go-to things to always check first?
Yeah. So just to address something, because I don't want to forget that what our host was talking about, that's what's really cool about MMA is it's a 50-50. Every fight's a 50-50 proposition, within reason. Either this guy's going to win or this guy's going to win. And so what you can do is you can actually use sports betting to hedge your fantasy lineups, right? Like you can go bet all of the favorites like you did and do all those parlays and win on the sports betting side. But then on the DraftKings side, when you're making your lineups, you can already know that you have that equity built in because you bet them, and then you can go play these super contrarian underdogs in your DraftKings lineups, knowing that if they win, they get that KO or whatever, they're going to be not only get you tons of points, but they're going to get tons of points that you're not sharing with everybody else, which will help offset any loss that you might have taken on your parlay when the underdog beats your favorite. I just wanted to get that in there because I've always thought that would be a great way to hedge at MMA, and it doesn't work that beautifully with golf because there's just so many more competitors in a golf tournament versus in a single MMA fight. Back to Trace's question. So really the number one thing that you want to do is, whenever you're trying to be successful at DFS is you want to play the leverage game. And you can do that two ways largely. You mainly do it by ownership. If you can find out which fighters are going to be highly owned, well, then you just don't play them and hope that they don't have a great fight, or maybe you get lucky and they lose or something like that. And so playing the ownership game is always the best one. But I would say with golf and with MMA in particular is like you really want to find sleepers, like guys that are going to be at low ownership that have a chance to spike really high scores. Because just because everybody's low owned has a lower ownership, which if you don't know in DFS is super important, just because they're low owned does not mean that they're necessarily a good play. But if they're low owned and they're one of those guys that can, get you all the points that come from MMA, I assume wins, knockouts, stuff like that are very heavily weighted. So if you have that guy that, he may be only a 500 fighter for his career, but 80% of his wins are by knockout. A guy like that could be that high upside guy that you could get, and that's where you start exploiting edges as you go find those low owned sleepers that offer you tons of upside. And that's kind of the leverage game that you're wanting to play to really get an advantage on the field.
Okay. Here's one for you that I think is, I think this is an important question for myself anyway. So you, I don't know, we'll just talk simple numbers, right? You got $100 and you're going to enter $10 tournament 10 times, right? Do you take the approach, like what is your rule of thumb? Do you find $10 tournaments and put your best card in them? Do you split it? Do you do 5 entries into 2? Or do you just hammer one competition or, one tournament with all your different slips? And if you're really confident in one, maybe hammer it twice in there. Like, how do you approach the way you're that right there? Like if you had the $100, how would you approach that?
Yeah, this is actually something I ask myself every week. Like I'll go after I got my research done, I've kind of picked my player pools. I go try to build like what I think would be the perfect lineup, right? The guys I absolutely love that are checking all the boxes that I want to see. And if it just so happens that I can get all 6 of those guys in a lineup, because you got to remember we have constraints whenever we do daily fantasy sports, mainly salary cap, right? And if I can get all 6 of those guys to fit in there, sometimes I'll just run that one lineup and I'll go put it in $100 single entry. $100 single entry is pretty risky because, if 4 of your 6 guys do well, there's a good chance you're going to get $0 back on that, right? You're kind of all in on that one set of 6 guys doing well. But the good news is because you're playing a $100 single entry, the prizes are going to tend to be bigger and you have to beat fewer people to be successful. So I always try to make a single entry, and I love weeks where I only do one lineup. And for me, it maybe is putting it in the $3,000 contest or something like that and just putting all my marbles in that one lineup. But typically what happens is the lineups don't work out that perfectly, and you end up kind of wanting to have more than just those 6 guys. So then that's kind of where, if you find yourself liking, 12 or 13 guys that week, I would encourage you to go look at, like putting 10, maybe go finding a contest that's like $5 and putting 20 lineups in it. Go run 20 versions of your player pool. And then when you're selecting those contests, you want to make sure that you're entering a contest that like you're not entering 20 lineups and pros are entering 150. You want to enter the same amount of lineups as them. So you try to play in tournaments where you can max the number of total entries. So a 20 max would be 20 lineups. That's the max you can enter. And so you would want to be maxing the same that anybody else is. then from there, you just want to make sure that you're getting into contests where not, like 90% of the money or 50% of the money goes to first place, because if you have a really good lineup, you still want to win a good amount of money, even if it's not first place. So that's basically how I make those decisions every week.
Gotcha. I'll let Trace just jump on there. Go ahead.
So I do have one question, just for full disclosure. If you're not aware, the UFC pool is usually at the most 30 people. So there's usually no more than 15 fights. There's never more than 15 fights, and you're lucky if you get those full 15. So at the very most, you have 30 contestants you can choose from. What would be your pool size with a selection that small?
Yeah, so I would imagine with MMA, with it only being 30 guys, we have PGA contests, that only have 30 guys sometimes, like the Tour Championship and stuff like that. And I definitely play those tournaments, so I have a pretty good idea how I would handle it. And really, what you have to do is you just have to get super committed to your picks. Like if I were doing, say I was doing those 20 lineups that we were just talking about a minute ago, I would probably have one, if not two guys that would probably be in every single one of my lineups, right? Like you just know there's no way this guy's losing tonight. He's going to clean up. You don't care about anything else because you're going to get those points. You're dead sold on this guy. So you want to have those in all 20 lineups. And maybe there's two of those guys for that night, or ladies. And then from there, I'm mixing and matching probably those other four. So I would say in a 30-person contest at most, you're saying, I would say that probably my player pool would only be about 12 to 13, with two of those guys, if not three of those guys, coming in at either 100% or 75% plus across my lineups.
That was going to be my next question too. So you will just lock guys in and not vary from the guys that you are overly confident. Like I don't want to say overly confident, like it's wrong. Just you will stick to the guys that you are favorites. So when you see a guy that, like, what if a guy's really locked, but he's got the highest salary you could possibly imagine, and you've got, like, will you consider removing, like, you got your batch of guys before you go in and see what they're worth, right? And then one guy's just, the cost of salary cap on him is just way higher than you want it to be. Will you ever remove a guy for that reason, or will you just short it on the last pick? Like, how do you handle that situation when, or your two guys are just the most expensive guys and they crush the fucking salary cap? What do you do about that?
Yeah, so you have a lot of really good questions for a guy that I was under the impression didn't play a lot of DFS. So I'm actually dealing with that issue this week for PGA. There's actually three guys up there that I really want to play, but I know that once I start constructing my lineup, I have to be aware of what they do to the rest of my lineup. And sometimes, like I imagine if like there was DFS back when Tiger Woods was in his prime, or Anderson Silva or something, like these automatic animals that are just going to win every time they go out. I imagine their salary would have been something ridiculous, like so expensive, like it would completely hamper the rest of your team. And so, yeah, sometimes you have to start doing like a little cost analysis benefit here and asking yourself, like, is this guy, yes, I know he's going to win, but is he going to get so many points in that win to pay off that incredible salary? And not just that he pays off that incredible salary, but that it justifies how much I'm going to screw over the rest of my roster. Because, if you're putting that super expensive guy in there, it's really limiting what you can do with the bottom half of your lineup. And so you have to start asking tough questions. Can this guy, first of all, pay off that really expensive threshold? And can he pay it off enough to justify me playing these three guys that I really don't like down here at the bottom, but I have to play them to afford the guy that I love? So yeah, part of it is you have to really balance it. So when there's a $12,000 guy at golf, which for golf is just crazy expensive, like you have to be absolutely in love with that guy, because it's not just about him paying off his salary. It's about what he's going to do and all the other guys he prevents me from getting in. Those other really good guys that aren't the super elites, you're almost never going to be able to get them in a lineup just because of the salary constraints.
So, like, when you're looking at a lineup, and I don't play a lot of DFS now, to just clarify, I have played plenty of DFS. So when, just like, I don't want you to feel like it was suckered. Like, we don't do that. MMA Twitter Spaces isn't DFS focused at all. It is money line betting. So, like, that's just kind of what I've been into since these came out, because I really like Spaces. So like when you're looking at a market or you're looking at like ownership, for me, like if I was looking at ownership and I got a really valuable guy, like a high dollar guy, a Tiger Woods and Anderson Silva. That was a great analogy. Like big props on that one. I got one of them guys that I got to take. I'm gonna go look for ownership, high ownership of one of the lower cost guys, which would be like a dog. In MMA, that's going to be an underdog, right? But I would go basically look for the underdog that's got the highest owner percentage, because that way I can try to offset. And then maybe if I'm not overly confident in any of the underdogs, sometimes you just trust the market and you trust people. And if 70% of people are on that guy, then, or even as an underdog, if 50% of the people are on that guy, it's probably a good way to offset the high dollar guy. I don't know how relevant that would be in golf, but in MMA, it just seemed like a relevant tool. Back when I played it, MMA DFS was very new. And man, I was Googling, so I built our site. It's a resource site on topicmma.com. It's just a gambling MMA handicapping resource site. And I recently seen how many tools there are for ownership and just for DFS, just how many sites there are. Man, there are several very, very handy tools out there that change how you could look at DFS. Like it is a total different monster than money line betting. But I do agree with you that if you're betting parlays that are low money chalk, but can kind of keep you playing on DFS for free. I don't want to say for free, but on house money, one hand washes the other and you hope to hit a big pot. Trace, go ahead.
Yeah, just going back to what you said earlier, I just want to get Degen's point of view on it. He was saying that if he saw a cheap dog that was high owned, he would grab him in uh, confidence in the people that are picking him. But Degen, what would you do? Would you take that same approach, or would you go the opposite way?
So I can't really speak for MMA because, I don't really know, as I've been very honest, I'm just not familiar enough to know. But generally speaking, I think it would apply to a golf. And when I see a cheaper guy that's very high owned, way higher owned than he should be, here's, like there's a reason he's high owned, right? The public is behind him. Probably some touts are pushing him. There's some good stats behind him and people are getting behind him. But I've basically made my bread and butter for the last 5 years just making one simple assumption that the public's kind of fucking morons. And if you just go against it enough, it's going to pay dividends in the long run. So if everybody says, oh, excuse me, all of the public is saying this is a good play, well, then I'll just go the other way, right? And that's worked out well for me. But you have to remember that I'm not sports betting. I'm doing DFS, which is a completely game theory based game. And I want to be opposite and contrarian to what all of those people are thinking. Whereas if it was sports betting, I might have a different perspective, but I don't get to do that because, Oklahoma.
Wes, go ahead, bud. I see you with your hand up. Good to see you on the mic, bud.
Thanks, brother. Nice to meet you, Degenerate, and thanks for the information too. So I have a question. Well, I have two in particular, but I just want to ask one first and foremost. What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that beginners make?
Hey, yeah, thanks, man. Nice to meet you as well. So the biggest mistake that people think whenever they get into DFS, and I feel pretty confident about this, is they think that winning is common. Like I win, pretty frequently, probably as in the 99 percentile of winners. And even for me, I'm lucky if I'm having a winning week about one out of every 4 weeks, right? Everybody thinks, oh, I hop in, I win. And if you get in there and you know what you're doing and you're playing cash game, which is just where you only got to beat 50% of people, you can get in and break even or probably even win a little bit of money. But that's not what people are getting into DFS for. People are getting into DFS because they hear you can win $1 million. They hear you can win $250,000, $100,000. So they want to go play in those tournaments. And when you play in tournaments like that, I mean, if you are at the very, very best of what you do, at best, you will win about 1 out of every 4 weeks. And you're saying, well, how can you make any money winning 1 out of every 4 weeks? Well, let's just look at it. If I lose week 1, let's say I lose $1,000, and week 2 I lose $1,000, and then week 3 I lose $1,000. I'm just playing until I hit that big one. And I know if I have a good process, I'll do it. And let's say then I win 5,000 on that fourth week. Well, now I've paid all that money back and I'm up 2,000. And I think a lot of people lose track of that they forget that you're going to lose when you're playing for these big contests. You're going to consistently lose week over week, and they're just not ready for that, and they can't really wrap their minds around that. So that would probably be the one thing that I think people don't understand when they first get into it.
I swear you could look at it like a parlay if they gave you an odds, like an odds cap. You got to keep it between these odds and these odds, and you were going to stack up 6 players. I swear it's the same logic, guys. Like, if you're not going to get on DFS, just think of it that way. Just think if you had to keep a parlay at a valuable rate, like I went last week and took like Nurmagomedov and the other heavy favorite guys to get my money back. But like, if you had to keep it at a better value and add one low end guy there, like how would you do that? Wes, I know you had another question, but I didn't mean to jump in on you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. And I like the correlation you drew. So I know you mentioned game theory, right? And of course, like a contrarian stance. So more so like you being contrarian with certain things is a matter of like analyzing the competition, right? Because it's like it benefits you to see what they're doing first, right? To see their moves. So it's not as if, put it this way, you would just be being contrarian to be contrarian, right? Because like if there was a scenario, let's say, I don't know, there's like good ownership on someone that you and yourself personally even know that's good ownership, right? Would you still go against it? Or would you just say, okay, I got to kind of analyze and find a better spot within something else? Like, how would you approach that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. That's one that like, that's a super nuanced question that like, that's the kind of stuff you learn after you do it for years and years and years. If you would have asked me this when I first started playing DFS, I would have been like, nah, I faded all the time. But then, as I've gotten a little bit older, I've gotten a little bit wiser. I've realized that like always fading ownership is kind of a fool's errand. A lot of times people are highly owned because they're like almost, inevitably good plays, and you got to just play them. So here is kind of like just my personal rule that I've made up that I've been following for about the past 3 years when I finally got a grip on how to handle this whole contrarian lifestyle. And it was this: I basically go do all my research before I look at any ownership. And I go find out if there's any guys that I'm just like married to. Like, you ain't going to talk me off of them. God himself could come down and say, this guy's going to get knocked out tonight. I'd be like, I don't care. I'm still playing him. Okay, those guys. And if I find those guys, sometimes I don't find any that week. Sometimes I find one. Sometimes I find 3. And then I go look at ownership. I go start putting together my own ownership projections, looking around the industry. And if I see that one of those guys is coming in chalky, I say, I don't care. I'm married to this guy. So that's why I make a point to really find the guys that there's no way I'm getting off of, because they check all the boxes that I want to see, and I will eat that ownership. And let's say they're going to be really highly owned, right? Let's say they're going to be 50% owned in the contest. Well, I say, fuck it. I'll go play him in 100%. So when he does well, I still have leverage on the rest of the field. That's how I do it.
That makes sense, because I feel that way, like even with betting, like a lot of times I'll just like analyze something like without a line, right? So I know, okay, whatever happens, I know I like this person, right? Whether it's the fight game or a game, I just know, okay, what this line should be, how this team plays. So if anyone comes to me and say, hey, this split says this and the public's on it, I don't care. Like, I know what it is. So like, I appreciate you saying that, coming from your position and being an expert at what you're doing, because it even encourages me with what I do. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I also want to say, if you guys were listening to how he said he does that just now, I'm not trying to kill my theory or over pump it, but like, this is the same way you build parlays, guys. This is when I was betting, I've admitted I'm going to take a different approach for the year and see how it does for me, because I just tend to break even on parlays. But like, I put 2 deposits in last year, and I floated for 8 months. Just hit a good one, lose, hit another good one, hit an okay one. And I was able just to float, building 3-leg teams instead of 6-leg teams in DraftKings. So like, it's very relevant if you want to play parlays and you want to play that game. Trace, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that helped me, that I learned from the Degen, was leaving your heart out of it, not picking people just because you love them or whatever. You don't have to like that person to use them. Just because you don't like the guy, you might like Colby Covington. People hate Colby Covington, and they want to see him lose. But you got to be realistic. More often than not, he's going to win those fights, and he's going to rack up a hell of a lot of points. So using him, even though you don't like him, you don't have to have your heart in it. Like, it's best to leave your heart out of gambling altogether. We all know that. But like even for that, that's it's a little bit different than taking money lines and stuff like that, because you want that guy to win, but you're almost the guy that you're selecting may lose at the very bottom, like the one of the cheaper ones. He's probably going to lose, but you're going off that hope that he pulls off a miracle, which they do all the time in MMA. We know that, and then that scores big in this. So leaving your heart out of your picks and just picking the guy that you don't necessarily love could help you out in the situation. Would you say that's fair, Degen?
Yeah, I'm real big. Like I don't know how this would cross over to MMA, because MMA does seem way more about like picks, whereas in golf we have so many more external factors. Like weather, right? I don't think weather's making a big impact on MMA, right? And so like there's these external things where if I see that this guy's going to be on the bad side of the weather, I will get off of that guy, even if I love them, just because at the end of the day, just making the right plays is more important to me than my picks. Now, I don't know if that's a true crossover at MMA, because there's probably not as many external factors as there is a.
Oh, absolutely. I don't mean to cut you off. Absolutely, brother. We got weight cutting, travel, equipment. We've got, if you're paying attention to what's going on, it's all there. It's a direct comparison.
Coaches being sick, all kinds of stuff. So it's just finding our thing that works for us, right?
Yeah, and like you were just saying, that the thing about the guy that everybody hates, the MMA fighter. We had that guy for like the past 6 years at golf named Patrick Reed. Everybody hates Patrick Reed. I don't like Patrick Reed, but at the end of the day, if I see Patrick Reed at 5%, I know his chubby ass can get it done, and so I will play him just for the leverage. Because at the end of the day, I don't. You know who I really like? The guys who's going to win me money. That's who I actually really like. I don't care about them as human beings. I care about winning money. So I will play Patrick Reed, even though I think he's a piece of shit and I don't like him.
Don't you? You're similar on Rory McIlroy, right? That's more of a bigger name that the guys might know, right?
Yeah, I really don't even have a problem with Rory. It's just everybody assumes I hate him, so I've just kind of taken that shtick and ran with it. I don't really. I think he's a good dude. I don't really mind him. I just like to shit on him because he doesn't win as much as he should for a guy that's as good as he is.
All right, I know we're running up the end of our time with you here. Plus, we do have other segments to hit. I know other folks are waiting on, and I don't mean to cut you short, but I want to say this and ask you this. So, I'm a big proprietor, a big believer in. So, like around here, we do tape. You got to watch tape if you're going to bet seriously. I don't know if that's relevant to what you do, but around here, you got to watch tape. But the point of that is, make your picks before you look at the odds. I'm a big believer in that. Do you believe in finding the people you want and finding the players you want before you see the associated salary? Is that something that you practice, or just not even something for you?
Yeah, I definitely try to always go kind of get my first feels pick Sunday night before the pricing comes out Monday morning. And when I do that, then the funny thing is when Monday comes out, you probably think I'm hoping the guys I like will come in at like a nice lower salary than I'm expecting. So it'll be easier to get in my lineups. But I've been doing this long enough to realize that like when I like a guy, like I have a sneaky, I really want to get this guy tonight. This is a perfect spot for him. I want him to come in like $500 to $1,000 more expensive than he should, because I know what that's going to do in the long run for me, which is going to be get him a discounted ownership, which is way more important to me than an extra $500 to $1,000 for my DraftKings lineup. So I am aware of that, and I am actually pulling quite counterintuitively to how you would think that I am for their salaries to come out Monday.
No, I disagree. That's Islam at value at minus 300, boys. Don't be greedy for minus 200. Just take it where it's at. Sorry, Dejen. I just had to give the people in here some shit.
So Degen, do you nix that question? Go back, Joe.
No, I was going to say, man, we promised him 20, 30 minutes, and we're at about 34. So I'll probably wrap. You got anything you want to close with, Trace? I want to thank him for being here. Before you do, man, it was a great conversation. I could probably do this for 3 hours with you, but, we try to keep a pace around here.
I just wanted to ask you, did you have time for questions from the chat, or are you in a hurry?
Yeah, I can take a question or two.
You want to open up the chat, Joe?
Yeah, does anybody show some clap, throw a request if anybody wants to hop on there? Otherwise, we'll let them get out of here. I don't see any coming through, Trey, so I'm not going to give them a hard time.
I seen one guy that kept requesting earlier to speak. I didn't know if he had a question or not, but I don't think I see him in here anymore.
Gosh, he probably got mad we weren't getting to him.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and cut out then. DJ, go ahead and plug it in, brother.
Hey, I was gonna say this, man. Feel free to come back anytime, Degenerate. Like I appreciate the information that you gave, man.
Yeah, I really feel like you could talk about DFS and we could just relate it to what we do without even having to stretch it real far, man. If you were just talking about what you're doing, if you ever want to break down fights or you ain't got nothing to do on a Tuesday night, man, we go through these cards. You could try to bet some MMA. I mean,
yeah, man, we could absolutely give you the knowledge you need to help you. Like if you can find the edges, this is the place to come to learn about MMA, bro, because we definitely break it down.
I'll be honest, the West, Belford over there, he's one of the sharpest guys around, man. Like, we all try to tail him. We got a couple other guys not on the mic. Real sharp, real sharp on picks around here. We track them through an app now, so, like, you can see the guys you should be listening to. We'd love to have you back. That's the point.
I'll tell you what, MMA is, I've already made myself a promise. The next DFS sport I dive head first into is going to be MMA. So I don't know. I've just heard too many good things about it, and it just seems like a sport that would correlate well to a lot of the strategies I like to use. It's pretty damn enjoyable to watch, which is just a nice bonus.
Man, I'd love to have you on. You'd always have a mic spot here. Trace, you got anything to close out?
We got Vinny. Go ahead, Vinny. What you got, brother?
Hey, how you doing, Degenerate? Just real quick, man. I'm not really big into UFC, DraftKings, whatever you want to call it. So, what do you recommend for me doing as the first step to learn how to do the process? I guess because I'm more used to betting either parlays or straight up. I never done it with.
Vinny, have you been here the whole time?
No, I'm sorry. Did he explain that?
Yeah, he already explained it. You can catch it on the replay. I don't want to hold him up too much.
Well, I mean, no. Can he just give me like a quick, let's say like a quick tip?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so Vinny, like just so you know, like over on DraftKings, they have like free tournaments and stuff, or even head-to-heads.
All right, cool.
You could probably just go find one of these guys in here and just go play them in a fun, for fun match where it takes $0, and then you can work on picking your fighters, and then you can kind of see how those guys score, right? Like you can see how do I get points from them, right? Like I don't even know MMA scoring that well. I assume it has to do with strikes and getting a W and all that stuff. Knockouts probably are a big bonus, and then once you learn the point system, you can start to get an idea of, oh, well, this gets me points, and I know that this fighter I follow, he does that a lot, and I could be getting points using him. And then you kind of get a feel for like, well, how many favorites do I want to have versus how many underdogs? And it's just a little bit of feeling it out, cool. Getting a feel for the scoring, and you don't have to put any money in it to just enjoy it and learn it.
Yeah, because I've been doing it with football. I did it with football before, but that was before betting was legal. So that was the only way you could bet here in Chicago and Illinois. So I appreciate the knowledge.
No problem, man.
Degenerate, I want to thank you very much for your time tonight, man. I mean that sincerely. We're going to clip this as long as the recording went well. We're going to get it up on our YouTube channel, and I will send you a direct link to it just so you can check it out. I don't know if I'll know how to tag you over there. I'll try to figure out how to do that. I'm good on Twitter, new over there. I'll do my best to credit you over there if I can, if you can send me a link to your YouTube.
Sure.
Vinny, go ahead, then. Go ahead. Whoever was talking.
Yeah, no, I was just going to share. Yeah, no problem. I'll probably get my editor to do it because I'm not real good at the technology stuff myself. I just get in front of the camera and talk shit.
Good man. If you could just have him send the On Topic account or the one I was messaging you from. I'm Joe. I was messaging you earlier. Either one of them accounts, man. If you can get one of you guys to shoot me over, at least your link or something, I can put you in the description of the video. Just something. I like to give credit where it's due.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me on. It was good chat with you tonight.
Yeah. So, Vinny, I actually have the DraftKings lineup being built. I have the league and everything, so we can get you in there and we can do some free ones. But Degen, if you want to go ahead and hit them with all your information, where they can find you and where they can follow you at, we'll get you out of here, brother.
Sure. So I would say the easiest way to find me, yeah, I mean, like I'm obviously on Twitter because we're on Twitter, but I'm more of a YouTube guy myself. I have a YouTube station. It's called Degenerate75. I cover DFS golf and DFS football. I do my big stream every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Lord's time zone. For all of you that don't know, that's Central. And come check it out. It's a good time. Even if you don't know shit about golf, I will probably make you laugh at least once. And there's worse things to do on a Wednesday night than to watch my stream.
He might call you a mother father about 10 times, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's all right by us. Thank you, Degen. I'll find you if it's the same name you got on here. I'll find you on YouTube. I'll get you all the links sent over when we get it uploaded, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right.